Welcome to another episode of the Doctors Building Wealth podcast. Today we're going to talk about being comfortable, and specifically we're going to talk about whoever said the goal is to be comfortable. Now, culturally, a lot of us are taught and a lot of us are coddled by our parents, right? And everyone feels like the goal is to make things comfortable, make things easy. I can't tell you how many times I've heard like, hey, let's make it easier on the next generation, not have to have them go through what we've gone through. So I think there's a cultural norm to try to make things comfortable, both for ourselves and for others who are following in our footsteps. And what Kenji and I are going to really argue today is that life should not be comfortable. It's not about making things comfortable for yourself or for your kids or for anybody else, actually. In fact, we've got to embrace discomfort. We have to learn to embrace discomfort in order to really lead a meaningful life that is fulfilling.
Yeah, and a couple things about comfort is that, if you embrace comfort, I think that this can be a real detriment. It could actually really prevent you from achieving your goals. And the opposite is actually true. One of our favorite quotes is from Brooke Castillo, who says, "Discomfort is the currency of your dreams." And this is something that we really believe. Unfortunately, we've been able to see thousands of people who go through our course be uncomfortable and actually achieve great things because of that discomfort, because they push themselves to be uncomfortable. And so we view being uncomfortable as a really, really good thing.
Now, discomfort is something that can be there in the short term. I think that's what happens is people get uncomfortable. They don't see that at a certain point you're actually going to be comfortable with what you're doing if you continue to do it, and they stop and they let it stop them. But if you keep pushing through, what you're going to find is actually at a certain point that thing that you were originally doing that made you uncomfortable becomes comfortable, and then the next job is to take on something new, take on something different to make yourself uncomfortable again. So it is a cycle of discomfort leading to comfort, and then putting yourself in a situation over and over and over again to be uncomfortable, because that's how you're going to grow.
Yeah, but I really think that it starts with that initial belief of, if you have this belief that, okay, I should be comfortable and I shouldn't really be uncomfortable, then you're going to stop yourself every time. Anytime you get uncomfortable, whenever you feel that, and I know that you guys know what that feeling is, anytime you're feeling uncomfortable, you're like, ooh, I don't want that. And then there are even people out there who don't even want to go there, right? So they don't even try new things because they don't even want that feeling. And so I think that that's where it starts, is that if you can embrace right from the beginning that discomfort really should be your goal, right? I mean, go pursue things that are going to make you uncomfortable. Then you are going to see that all of a sudden everything's going to change.
Well, I think people equate discomfort with not being good, actually, and saying like, hey, when you're uncomfortable, it's a sign that you should stop doing something or something is not good. And that's a story that a lot of us have been taught to tell ourselves, but it's not necessarily the case. And I want to take it to an example that I think a lot of you are going to be able to relate to. You start lifting weights and you start working out. It's going to be uncomfortable. Your heart rate's going to be up and it's not going to feel great, and you're lifting the weights, but 2 months from now, when you go to lift those same weights, it's going to be a different experience, right? Now, all of a sudden, it's become comfortable again, right? So what do? You go lift heavier weights and it becomes uncomfortable again, or you run that extra mile or do whatever. And that's how you continue to strengthen your muscles, is you continue to go and make yourself uncomfortable over and over again. What if at a point you're like, hey, this is it. I just want to maintain, right? Then you're going to maintain that weight level. You're probably going to be a lot more comfortable than when you were stretching yourself to go to higher weights. And that's where you're going to stay, right? You're not going to grow anymore. You've grown to a certain point, and that's where you stay. And a lot of us do this a lot in life. Okay, here's another example. How about skiing? Like, how many people are just intermediates, right? Because you went to ski, you made yourself really uncomfortable, you got through the green hills, you went a number of times, and now you're in the blues. And that's where you stop, right? You're like, okay, this is good for me. I don't need to go anymore. And that's okay. Like, again, but it's being aware and intentional about it and saying, hey, I'm okay with blues. I'm choosing not to grow anymore. I don't want to make myself uncomfortable in this space. That's okay, right? Because it's true that each time you push yourself, there is a potential for injury, not only in skiing, also working out, also investing, right? Each time you try something new, each time you stretch yourself, there is a potential for injury because you're taking on a new risk. But ultimately, if your goal is to increase your capacity in an area, you have to make yourself uncomfortable along the way.
Well, here's another example. Think about all of our colleagues, right? And really, if you think about doctors, it's a very secure job. It pays a great salary. The reality is a lot of people are pretty miserable. They're burnt out. But they're not willing to make a change, right? And a lot of that is that job security keeps them from stepping out. And again, the fear of being uncomfortable by trying something new or stepping out. If you think about all of our colleagues, very, very few have actually stepped out, right, and done different things, have explored gaining new skills, have explored even real estate investing. We know that for a fact. There's just a small handful of our colleagues who actually went out and ventured out and tried something like real estate investing. And a lot of it, again, I think is that fear of that discomfort that kept him from taking that big step.
Yeah, and so I have to give you guys a hand if you're investing in real estate or you're entrepreneur at all. I was just leading a mastermind of all female entrepreneurs, all docs, yesterday actually. And I said this to them. I said, you stepped out of the box, right? You stepped out of what was comfortable. When you start a business, there's a lot of risk. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of things going on. There's work, there's effort, and it is not comfortable. It's not comfortable to start any sort of business, including real estate investing. And so in order to be successful at it, you've got to be persistent and you've got to stick through that discomfort. And like Kenji mentioned, it is not the norm. And so if you have done that in your life, really congratulate yourself, because that is not the norm, and you've already proven to yourself that you've done it before, right? And that's a cool thing, because you can look back at what you previously did and say, hey, I've done this, I can do this again. And that can be part of the fuel that keeps you going, because you recognize that you've done this before and it's not so scary, right? All of you went to med school, or you went to professional school, or you got to where you are right now by making some efforts and, setting a vision and going through some uncomfortable times, right? Taking biochemistry in college was not comfortable. I can tell you organic chemistry was horrible for me. I hated it, but I got through it. I stayed with that discomfort because ultimately it was going to lead me to where I needed to go. So you've all done this in the past. So just remember, when you're feeling uncomfortable and you're thinking to yourself, I've got to quit, look backwards and see all the times that you were uncomfortable and you kept going, and how you're grateful you kept going. And then also remember, you're modeling this for your kids. And so if you're quitting because you're uncomfortable, that's what they're learning from you, because they're seeing you do that. No matter what you say to them, if they see you doing that, you are actually modeling that.
Yeah, and this is a good chance to talk about kids and what you are modeling, but really what they experience as well. And so this is, I think about our son, who is really struggles when he hits a point of, I think it has to be discomfort. Anytime he's doing something hard, and math is one of those subjects where he hits a wall and you could just see him squirming, and he just doesn't focus, and he wants to do something else, and he starts to kind of whine. And so I just know that what he's experiencing is that he's experiencing an extreme discomfort because it is so hard for him. And then he does verbalize that. But one of the things that I sit down and tell him, I say, hey, first try to understand what he's feeling. And I verbalize, okay, are you feeling uncomfortable? Are you feeling like, this is really hard? Are you feeling scared that you're not going to be able to do this? I try to verbalize the kind of emotions he's feeling. And then I kind of tell him, hey, nobody ever said that being uncomfortable is a bad thing, right? And nobody ever said that doing hard things is a bad thing. And I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of us think, is that these are bad things. And so I just encourage him. I say, hey, these are all good things, right? Hard is good, right? Being uncomfortable is good. And so that's one of the things that I've been doing with him and coaching him through that. And baby steps, I think is improving over time. But ideally, the idea is that when he's an adult, whenever he's facing something challenging, that he's not going to be fearful because of the discomfort.
And that you've laid the tracks in his brain that discomfort is good, and it's normal part of any process, and it's normal part of learning anything new. This reminds me, I read a study maybe a year and a half ago about athletes. And what the study did was it looked at athletes who went on to be like ultra successful, like they were in the pro leagues, versus athletes that had a lot of skill but never went into the pro leagues. And they looked at what happened. And what they could see is those who went to the next level, they were just as talented as the other group. They went to the next level were people who faced challenges. They faced injuries, for example, but they had this element of persistence, of keep going, and they got through it and they got better. Whereas other people didn't necessarily face those types of challenges and they never next leveled it. And the conclusion of the paper was, we should not be trying to make it easier for athletes. We should not be, a lot of people have kids who are in athletics, right? You're trying to get them the best shoes. You're trying to, help them out to make getting there easier, like trying not to have any barriers or friction for them to be able to be successful. Well, actually, what if you put some barriers and friction in there What if they had some tough times and they had to work through it? That's actually what leads to people becoming these high performance athletes, at least according to this paper, is they got challenged. All the time as parents we spend trying to clear the way for our kids and take away the challenges, we're actually doing them a disservice that is not going to require them to get that grit and to face that discomfort and overcome it on their own and have that self-confidence from having done that, not having somebody else clear the way so it's easy for them. So now we're going to talk a little bit about this in regards to real estate, because I think it's important to talk about that, because after all, we love real estate, right? Real estate is uncomfortable when you have never done it before. When you are, I think of our Zero to Freedom students in our course, and week 3, week 4, they're calling contractors, they're calling property managers, they're having conversations. They don't even own a property, and they have so many stories in their heads about how they're imposters or they're newbies. They don't really know what they're doing, and they feel so uncomfortable. And some people don't do the homework, right? Some people don't take those steps. But the ones that do, what we often see is, number one, they say, you know what? They told me I was speaking real estate lingo. They told me I actually sounded like I knew what I was doing, and they're really, really excited about that because they actually have learned a lot. Or they make it through it and it's not so scary to do next time, right? And then they buy their first property, and then they're a pro at cold calling, really is what it is, property managers, and interviewing them and finding out, what their prices are like and where they work and all those pieces. And they have a lot less barrier to entry now because they've done that initial work. They've conquered those fears, they've dealt with the discomfort, and now it's easier. And so the key is, every time you do one thing for the first time, it is scary, it is uncomfortable. The second, third, fourth time, it becomes easier and easier. So likewise, the first property that you buy, it is the most uncomfortable, right? You're putting in all your offers. The first offer you put in is much, much more uncomfortable than the 10th offer that you've put in. The first property that you buy, you've got a lot of fears. You've got a lot of unknowns. You've got a lot of stories in your head. That is the most uncomfortable. You're buying the 5th property in the same neighborhood, same type of property. It's like you don't even have any discomfort anymore, right? Because you made it through. And so remember, discomfort does not last forever. And remember, to continue to grow, you've got to continue to put yourself in more and more uncomfortable situations. And I remember when we learned this with our real estate, actually. So what's so surprising is you can do this, and then you can get to a point and you can be like, okay, I'm good. Back maybe like 3-4 years into our real estate portfolio, we got into like 45 units, and we were saying, hey, so let's keep going. And Kendra was like, really? Maybe we just stay here. Maybe we know how to do duplexes. We know how to do fourplexes. Like, maybe we just stay and invest in duplexes and fourplexes. Maybe we don't need to go bigger. Maybe we can just keep this number of properties. Maybe we pay them down and we just sit back, right? And so that is a legitimate choice. You can absolutely choose to do that. You don't always have to keep growing, but you also have to intentionally know that it means that you're not going to develop further skill sets in that area. And if that's okay with you, then absolutely make that choice. But for us, it was not okay in the end, because we were building a course. We were wanting to go first and help others be able to follow in our footsteps. That meant we had to go take risks. We had to go try new things. We had to learn how to do new things so we could help other people do it. And that's really ultimately what allowed us to keep motivated and allowed us to grow the portfolio that we have today. Was we continuously put ourselves in uncomfortable situations in order to grow, and we have a bigger why. It's not just about us anymore. It's about the community following in our footsteps and helping them be able to do it easier and faster than we did.
Yeah, and I think about another story with our Empire Builders Pro group. This is our mastermind for people who are really looking to scale their portfolios quickly. And one of the skills that we work on in EB Pro is capital raising, right? And it's a skill that you can acquire. And if you're able to acquire that skill, then you're able to buy any property of any size, because you'll have access to the money that you need to buy these properties. And so we're currently doing a capital raise. And I remember talking to a couple of the ones that are leading this raise. Again, they've never led a raise before, but they stepped into this discomfort, and we're a little short right now. And I told them, I said, like, look, I know what you guys are feeling. You guys are feeling really uncomfortable, not only because you haven't hit the goal, but also you don't know what else you have to do in order to get to that goal. And you're going to be doing a lot of things that are uncomfortable over the next several weeks, things that you're just going to be pushing yourself to do because you know you have to hit that goal. And I said, like as Leti said, this discomfort is not forever, right? Once you achieve this goal, on the other side of this is going to be this incredible feeling of confidence, this incredible feeling of, yeah, I did that. And that's going to be really empowering, because think about what's going to happen the next time an opportunity comes and you're expected to raise a certain amount. It's the difference between saying yes to that opportunity and no to that opportunity. If you have that confidence, you're going to say yes, because you're going to be like, okay, I've done this before. I'm going to do it, right? And if you never step into that discomfort and get comfortable with it, then what's probably going to happen, I've seen this also happen to a lot of people, they end up saying no, and they end up turning down opportunities because they're like, well, I don't have the money for it, and I've never capital raised, or I don't have the confidence that I'm going to be able to raise that much. And so people stop themselves from achieving those things. They stop themselves from buying those properties, those opportunities that are right in front of them, because they don't have that confidence. Again, on the other side of that discomfort is this incredible confidence that is going to take you so much further.
And then finally, I just want to wrap up the examples with an example from our personal lives. Our son Leo was being bullied at some point in like a summer camp situation. And it was a great opportunity for us to sit down, talk to him about how to deal with it, talk to him about what he could do to stop it, all the actions he could take. And what we didn't do is we did not go in and rescue him. Okay. He was not getting hurt, at least physically. And we wanted him to learn how to deal with that uncomfortableness and to be able to get the skill set to be able to stop it and make sure that he had that for the future. And when we told some other parents about it, they were absolutely appalled. They were like, oh, you need to talk to the teacher. You need to do all these things. And we're like, no. We're going to coach him through this so he learns how to deal with it. That's the skill set we want to give him. We don't want to make it easy for him. We want him to understand what real life is like, because this kind of stuff happens in real life. Even when you're an adult, you get attacked, you get bullied. That is part of what happens, especially when you're in the public sphere like we are. We get attacked, and we have to learn how to deal with it. We have to learn how to respond at a higher level of energy, and to also trust in ourselves and have that resourcefulness. And that's what we want to teach our kids at a young age. And so we're not trying to make it easy for them. We're actually happy when there are these types of challenges, because we know they're going to grow. So just to normalize all of this, again, to normalize it, whenever you try something new, it's normal to be uncomfortable. Many of us are raised with our families trying to make it comfortable for us all the time. Society has told us it needs to be comfortable. As physicians, a lot of us value security, and we value certainty of knowing we're going to get paid a certain amount, and we're going to have a job. And so we value that comfort and that security. And so it feels scary when we step into something new, especially, when we're older, and, maybe we do it a lot when we're younger, when we're going to med school and all those pieces. And then all of a sudden we know our job and it's all comfortable, and we're stepping into something new again, like real estate. And that feeling comes back, and we're like, oh, I haven't seen this in a long time, right? All of that is normal. It's a normal part of the process, but it is what causes you to grow. If you are not uncomfortable, you are not growing. And so if you want to grow, and if you want to do more, if you want to be more, if you want to have that opportunity to have the abundance to allow you to give more, you have to grow. And you have to grow in your financial skills. You have to grow in your ability to invest. You have to grow in your ability to run a business. Those are the ways you grow. You make money with real estate, and you make money with businesses. That's how you make significant money, other than being a W-2 employee and just getting paid to trade your time for money. If you really want to leverage your time, if you want to have financial freedom, if you want to have time freedom, you got to learn either to invest in real estate, run a business, or both. You got to do it. And it will be uncomfortable, but you keep going anyway.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that there's a first step of realizing that discomfort is just a normal part of growing, or whenever you step into something new. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is that there's a difference between somebody who understands that, oh, if I do something new, it's going to be uncomfortable, and normalizing that. But then there's that other person who actually seeks that discomfort, right? And I think we've kind of gotten to that point where we are really pushing ourselves and challenging ourselves to do new things all the time, right?
And it doesn't mean that sometimes we don't want to run away. We still feel that feeling, and we still keep going anyway.
Right, but I did want to say that there is this shift, and I think that I do see this in the EB Pro group, where people are really are pushing themselves and doing things and challenging themselves and pursuing that discomfort. And one thing I want to kind of leave you guys with is that one trick that I use sometimes is interpret in my mind discomfort as excitement. And I think that subtle shift, and it probably is the same hormones and things like that in our bodies when you're feeling discomfort versus excitement. So I kind of shifted in my mind of like, okay, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, but maybe this is excitement. And that shift has really helped me deal with that discomfort a lot easier.
Well, actually, discomfort happens when you look at the future and you're looking at all the things that can go wrong. Excitement happens when you're looking at the future and you're seeing all the things that can go right. So it's really just a matter of focus that, can switch that feeling that you're experiencing. So ask yourself, if you're feeling a lot of discomfort, where are you looking? Are you looking at the past? That might be another option, is you're looking at the past and some experience you've had in the past and you're dragging that baggage in and applying it to right now, and that's why you feel discomfort. Or maybe you're anticipating the future and you're looking at what's going to go wrong rather than what's going to go right instead. And you have that option. You can always control your mind. You can control your focus. You can control the meanings you give to things. And you can choose to be forward focused, not backward focused, drawing your past into it as well. Okay. Well, that was a fun episode. If you enjoyed this, make sure to share it with your friends. Make sure to subscribe. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Doctors Building Wealth podcast.